Okay, if you're joining us from the last painting, we just finished our watermelon and our strawberries, and we were waiting on those to dry so we can come back and add a little bit of detail in there, and possibly with our pen. So we will do that as soon as they finish getting dry. Of course, I am very impatient, and sometimes I come back when it's still wet and add things in there, so never be afraid to do that. But we're gonna move on to our next fun painting. And on a hot summer day, what is one of your favorite things to go into the freezer and get? I know, besides watermelon and strawberries, one of my favorite things is popsicles. And popsicles come in all different flavors and all different colors. Sometimes you can split them in half and share them with your friend. And sometimes they have chocolate in them. Sometimes they have sprinkles. Sometimes they are patriotic and red, white, and blue. And sometimes they're a push-up with an orange cream flavored sickle. My favorites are usually the grapes. And I love a good lemon lime popsicle. So think about your favorite popsicle, and we are going to draw one or two, and we're just going to look at a couple different ways of making them three-dimensional. If you notice these popsicles, you can see the stick. The stick is not just one color, it's got some shading to it. Our popsicles are kind of look like you could almost taste them. You could split them in half. Now we can make up our own popsicles, or you can do your favorite one. I think I'm going to do a push-up, and I'm going to do it kind of at an angle. So the push-up popsicle is kind of rounded, and it comes down like this. And it's going to have its popsicle stick, which is just a rounded oval, and then where we're going to have some shadows is going to be right about in here, and I'm going to try not to do it real dark, but I know it's going to be right about here. Okay, so when you get your popsicles drawn, then I'm going to, let's go ahead and do your other one, and I'm going to add a, let's say a strawberry popsicle, but just a single pop. And so I'm gonna let it go this way, and it's gonna be one of those homemade popsicles that we made in the freezer out of Kool-Aid. So I'm gonna let it be like this, and I think I'm just gonna have it be a single popsicle. So again, we'll just have our popsicle stick sticking out, and we're all ready. So pick out any colors, your favorite colors. I think mine, the red, white, and blue. There's gonna be red, white, and blue. And I think I am going to use a wet on wet technique for all of my popsicles, for this one anyway. And so let's get our popsicle painted with water. Be careful not to go outside of it, or it will spread. Of course, I guess we could just pretend that our popsicle melted and dripped on the side, if that happens. So get it nice and wet, and only the popsicle. Let's don't do the stick yet. Okay, now I'm gonna come in and get some of that red, and maybe a little bit more. And we're just gonna start, because we're gonna have to glaze so we can add some depth to the side. So and paint the red. About how far down does it go? Maybe to about right. Here. Now, these popsicles are usually a little darker on one side, so we're gonna add a little more red over here on the bottom side, because I think our light is coming from up here, so this side will always be our darkest. Wherever the sun or the light source is coming from will be lighter. I might even get a little of this darker color and add it in right over here. Okay, now we're going to skip the white for a minute and we're going to go down to the blue. And I think we'll try this blue for this bottom of this popsicle. And we're going to start at the bottom. And work our way up. What flavor is the blue part of a popsicle? I think it's a blueberry, isn't it? Or is it raspberry? Either way, it is delicious and perfect for the 4th of July. Whether you're at home or at the beach, hanging out by a pool or at the river. Alright, so let's give it a little bit of depth. Right now it's all kind of one shade. Let's get our blue and let's go back up on that back side where the shadow is. Make it darker. And you can paint it right up along that side where we drew the edge. And we're going to let that come up just a little bit into the white. Not much. Then we're going to come right in the center. I'm going to let it come up just a little bit, and I'm also going to let it come up just a little into that center. And it's bleeding a little. We might even blow it just a little. Okay, and then same thing on this side. We're going to let it come up just a little on either side. And then, just so it looks a little deeper down there, we're going to get a little bit darker blue, and we are going to come along the edge. Paint's starting to dry out. Make sure and keep them hydrated. And pull a little bit of that darker. We're going to pull it right in here. And see, if I keep that highlight where the sticks are, then it's going to give that impression that it's three-dimensional and not flat. Now, these are just fun, so y'all don't have to worry about making them perfect. And I think I might drag that red down just a tiny bit into our white. What y'all think? Is that starting to look right? We need maybe a little bit of this dark red up here at the top, where it goes around. Make it look a little more 3D. Alright, now, just on this side. See how this is lighter on this side and darker on this side, so it gives the impression that it's three-dimensional. And we'll just add a couple little sparkles in here because it's popsicle. We gotta make it a little bit fun. Now, if we find any places where we feel like we had too much, we can come back with a clean, wet brush and our paper towel, find a clean spot. And let's say I've got a little too much blue right there. So I'm gonna get it a little bit wet, and I'm gonna come in and very carefully dab and let some of it come up. I can also do that right through the middle here where I think it's a little too much, and up here. And maybe we didn't leave quite enough white of our popsicle for our white flavor. And then I'm going to pull a little bit more of that blue back up because I took a little too much off. Alright, so we let that dry for a minute. Move on to the popsicle stick. What color is a popsicle stick? Let's see. I keep lots of these little, I get a 6-pack of mixing trays at the Dollar Tree. So you can have a lot of them going, or you can get a large palette that holds about 30 different colors. So let's get a light tan, and a little bit of brown in it, and try to make a popsicle stick color. And I'm just going to give it a little impression of a popsicle stick. Try not to let it touch or it'll bleed. And we're doing this wet on dry technique so that it doesn't bleed too much, but we're getting enough on there that once I get the popsicle stick done, I can come back with a little bit of dark brown and add it to this far side. And number one, we're trying to make it look like it's got some wood grain to it. And we're also giving it that shadow. So it looks like that part is the lights hitting the top and the shadows on the bottom. Come back with those pointed Sorry for the jump in video, but obviously, magically, a second popsicle just appeared. And that is because my battery died while I was recording. So without starting completely over, I'm gonna show you another popsicle just like I did right here and how I did it. This is a grape popsicle. This one was our red, white, and blue pop. And just again, drew our shape, whatever shape you want to have for your popsicle. It can be rounded like this. This one I'm going to make a little bit three-dimensional where we see the bottom of it. Make it a little bit different. Make our popsicle stick come down out of the center so we can look at it that way. I think I may even add a little bit of an indentation in my popsicle. Just be a little bit different here. And make it come up. So that's where it kind of recesses in. So in order to do this, what I did was same as we did last time. We are going to prep our color for our popsicle. This one I did as a grape, which is my favorite popsicle. You decide what your favorite flavor popsicle is. So I took a little bit of a regular purple added in a little bit of that more berry flavor, and then we're gonna come back with some layers. We're going to do wet on dry glazing like we did earlier when we learned our techniques. So we're gonna start out just with a little bit of a light color, and we're gonna, because we're doing wet on dry, we're gonna let there be some negative space so that we have some highlights, because a lot of times where the light hits, we end up with almost a white color, and that makes it look like the light is reflecting off of the popsicle. So we're gonna let there be some highlight areas all around our popsicle, especially up at the top. So I'm just gonna trace all the way down with my light color. And then I am going to get some of that purple and make this a little bit darker. Add some more purple in there before we come to the center. And I'm gonna make this, it's the same color, but it's just a little darker. Now before I let it blend, because the second these two touch, it's gonna start spreading and blending. I'm gonna paint that middle real good and even come back with a little more. And then I'm gonna just let it cross the threshold and start touching right there. And that darker is gonna spread up along those lines. Now, we're still working from the same sunlight that we did earlier. So we're gonna pretend that the sun is coming from up here and pointing down. So we're gonna have it darker on the bottom and lighter on top. Now, I think my popsicle has a little bit of a berry flavor to it, so we're gonna come in and add a little bit of this. No rhyme or reason, we don't have to make it perfect, we're just letting it spread out because this is a flavorful popsicle and it's just fun. And it's gonna have all the great flavors in there. Now, this bottom part is going to be an even darker color, so I'm going to add a little bit of this blue into here, so it's a little darker even here. And let's see how this turns out. It's not going to look just like that because we're going to see the bottom of the popsicle. And I'm going to leave that line for now. But I'm going to try to make it come up where the stick is going to be. And you can already tell it's not quite dark enough, so what color are we going to come back with? We're going to probably let's come with a little of that blue and see if that helps. Make it look a little more like the bottom? Or do you think we should add maybe a little of this red color? That looks good. So sometimes the first thing you do is not quite what you want to do and you have to come back and add more. So I'm going to add a little in there too. So those deeper parts have that shadow. I think I like that a lot. Then we would let this dry before we do the popsicle stick. But I am impatient today, so we are going to take our popsicle stick color and let's just see if we can do it without touching. And then we'll come back and let it fade together. So I like the wood color to not be perfect because a popsicle stick has some variation. So we can add that, and let's come back with a little more of that light brown because it got a little too purpley. And maybe a little of that dark brown on this side. I'm just going to let it swirl. And then with this one, what I did is I came back and I just splattered some different colors on the page by loading up my brush and saying, all right, we're just going to make this fun, and we're just going to pretend we have popsicle splatters all over the place. We can have some big ones, we can have some small ones. You can even have a couple larger drips. Load your brush up and let it just drop on there. You definitely do not have to do that. We could wait and come back with a background color around the whole thing. Again, your popsicles, your flavors, it is up to you. You can add what looks like some blueberries up in there. Add a little blue into our stick. I don't like how messy that is on the outside, but you know what? It can just be a melting popsicle. It's completely up to you. So if you want to learn one more little technique, sometimes we come back with some spray alcohol, and it on wet will also give it a neat effect. You spritz it and make sure it's working. And that may or may not work on this one, but it kind of gives it that mottled effect, and it looks like your popsicle kind of has some ice crystals on it. So we're gonna let that dry and then come back with maybe a good turquoise would look good in the back there, or a light blue. So I'm gonna mix up a light blue here, and I don't think I like that, so let's make sure that's that water. Let's add some water in here, and I'm gonna mix up a nice, very pale blue, and I mean very pale, and we're just gonna do a wash in the background. And let it fade out, because we're having our popsicle outside on a nice summer day. So we're just gonna add a very subtle blue in the background. Let's see if it works with alcohol in this background. Okay, and just let that dry. Just gave it a little bit more texture and effect. We can come back with our pen and ink, and add some more seeds into our strawberry. What else would make a really good effect on our strawberries would be they have white paint pens, and you could come back with a little white paint pen and add some details for some berries, seeds. I do not have one right this moment. Could come back and add a little bit of shading in the stem and underneath. Of course, we forgot our shadow down here in our strawberry, but you can come back and add all those details that you like. Now, what I would love to do is once you all finish, it would be great if you could share some of your pictures. If you have any questions and would like to know more about painting, or you would like me to look at yours and give you some advice, or if you want some other ideas for paintings, we have 1,001,000 ideas of what you could do. All you have to do is reach out, and we will include my contact information so that you can ask all those questions. We can keep in touch. I can give you some advice. The biggest thing is just to keep practicing. Go out in your yard, look at some of your favorite flowers. This is one I just did for my mom of some dogwoods in the yard. In the back is the alcohol technique in the sky, and that was just a blue watercolor and just sprayed a little bit of alcohol in there to get that effect. And then just the dogwoods are simple greens, just a pencil sketch and outlining my favorite flowers. This is just a sketch out of my sketchbook. These tulips were from a photograph of some tulips, and you see there's dry brush, there's wet on wet, there's all the different techniques in there, and a crisp line from the tape. Sometimes I like to do very simple drawings of, watercolor paintings of, say, the beach. Sometimes I even do these when I'm sitting out at the beach. Almost impressionistic because it's very, very simple. And then sometimes I like to do just colors and then figure out what it looks like. So you can come back on your watercolors with a pen and ink and just draw and do lots and lots of drawings and make up whatever you would like. Fanciful, it can be realistic. Some of these are not real. Some of these are crazy. Then you've got a fly sitting in the corner and a flower. So anything and everything you can imagine, you can turn into a painting. And then one of the last ones I'm going to show you for some ideas is based off of an artist who was a good friend of mine, and her name was Robin Nance Metz, and she loved to do sunshines and colorful paintings. And this is one we did in summer camp just 2 weeks ago, and we drew pictures, and then we added a little bit of black acrylic paint into Elmer's glue, and we painted all these black lines with that Elmer's glue with the paint in it. Let it dry, and then came back and did watercolors inside all the lines. And then I came back with a gold pen and added a little bit of detail. So this was a sunrise, sunset, and it can go in both directions. So sometimes we can do watercolors that are more realistic, and then sometimes we can do watercolors that are just for fun, feel good, and make us happy. The most important thing is to just get out there, get a sketchbook, fill it with art, look at all the things around you, set an apple on the table if you want to, and look at it and start painting. Every day, every chance you get. And with each drawing and each painting, you will get better and better and better. So y'all have fun, make lots of art, and I hope to see you all soon. Thank you so much.